Hi everyone, this is Hillary Ellers and I'm coming to you from Lightwork Studio. You know, we've been covering information about humans, space beings, and devas. And our lesson today, Best Friends, is in my opinion a kind of continuation of that information. We're going to be looking at humans' relationship with animals. And if you're an animal lover, you'll love this lesson. If you're not, I hope you like it anyway. So, there's not much in conventional Western teachings about humans and animals, especially in our spiritual teachings. But indigenous groups and Eastern religions teach much more about humans and animals. And you know, part of what I feel we're getting into when we work with this information is that great topic of oneness. So, what are some questions we're going to be covering? Do animals have souls? Do they reincarnate? What are their life lessons? And what are the forces that draw humans and animals together? What are our relationships with animals really about? Have you heard of animal totems? This is a phrase that relates to animals as our teachers. And there's also a part of us that, a very high spiritual part of us, that appears in an animal form. And that part is called the phantom. And we'll be talking more about that today too. So, we're also going to be looking at some techniques to help you have a greater ability to tune into animals and to work with animals in your life. First of all, I want you to think about a concept that I believe in completely, and that is the cooperation of all life. I believe, and I believe this very strongly, I put a star by it on my notes. I believe that all life cooperates. We don't see that when we're just looking at the surface of events, because, you know, there appears to be victims and there appears to be perpetrators. But according to my beliefs and this teaching, victims and perpetrators are moving in a very deep agreement. Every event of your life helps you learn. Every experience gives you a chance to learn and grow, and therefore every circumstance, every event is useful. Now, what I'm going to say next, boy, some people have just almost battled with me over this. I have a sense that nothing wrong ever happens. That's a stretch, isn't it? When we look at life, we look around at all the crummy stuff that happens. Let me tell you that a story. A friend of mine had an meditative experience. And in this experience, he was communicating with one of his inner teachers. The teacher was showing him certain events. In the beginning, the teacher showed him an event that was not very negative. And the teacher said, "Can you see God at work in this?" And he looked at this and he said, "Yeah, I can." Then the teacher presented another image. And each time the teacher presented an image that was a little bit more and more negative, until finally something was presented that my friend just couldn't see God at work in that event. And later he told me, when he was telling me about this experience he had, he said, "You know, Hillary, at that point I failed the test, so to speak." That he reached a point in which he could not see God at work in something. So every part of our life is for learning. We're here all about learning. And we only attract into our lives things which will help us grow. The goal of all evolving beings, all conscious beings, is to more consciously participate in life. And we are working, each of us, whether we realize it or not, we're working to participate in life until we are fully self-aware. When we reach that level, full self-awareness, we no longer have to incarnate as humans. And we've learned everything we need to learn by being human. I think that one of the, well, not one of, the most painful experience I ever lived through was, it's very personal, but I want to share it with you. There's a point to this. The most painful experience I ever lived through was losing custody of my children when they were very young. I was dating a black man. I was divorced, and my boyfriend was a black man. And in the state of Florida at that time, that was a no-no. And my ex-husband took me into a custody battle for the children. It lasted 2 years. And you know, if I'm nothing else, I'm definitely an idealist. And I was just so sure I wouldn't lose custody of my children. Even in the paperwork that came that said I did lose custody, it was stated I was not found an unfit mother. It was so heavy, believe me. But during that entire time, when all of this was going on, I prayed. And my prayer was for the right thing to happen. You know, now, at this point, I don't even need to pray that anymore, because I feel the right thing always happens. But at that time, this was many years ago, at that time, I prayed for the right thing to happen, and I prayed with fervor, with intensity, and maybe there was a little catch in it, because I assumed that if the right thing happened, I wouldn't lose custody of the children. Well, I did. And when I lost custody, I was stunned. I was in pain. It was an awful, awful thing to live through. But one thing happened. I realized I had prayed so intently and I had prayed so sincerely for the right thing to happen, even though I couldn't understand why. I did believe the right thing happened. I did believe that. I didn't know why. I probably still don't really know why that happened. But my prayer helped me move into acceptance. And what I want you to know is that acceptance, and a friend of mine and I used to always say, acceptance is the answer to everything. That was our little comment. You know, when something crummy would happen, acceptance is the answer to everything. What happens is that acceptance is the doorway out of suffering. So, if you are in acceptance, it definitely relieves so much of your suffering. As we learn to tune into and communicate with animals, we deepen our kinship with all life. Animals operate from a deep, very grounded level. And I feel that animals are naturally much more grounded than we humans are. One of the things that helps us as we have relationship with animals is that this kind of grounding animals have is contagious. And as we are in relationship with them, they help hold us together when at times we are literally disintegrating. That's happening for all of us right now. Each person on earth is being pushed to completely redefine ourselves. And in a sense, and I really believe this, an old identity is disintegrating for each of us. That is extremely hard to go through, need I say. You probably have noticed. It's hard to go through. Animals help us because they give us and help us have a kind of cohesiveness, so that on one level we can disintegrate, and on another level we don't fall apart. Perhaps it's a little bit like what we were talking about in terms of acceptance. We don't have to suffer so much. You know, not only do animals help hold us together while we go through these intense changes that we're moving through, animals help hold the earth together, because the earth is also totally disintegrating an old identity. And again, I could say, I bet you've noticed, our systems are beginning to fail. You know, years ago, I'm 78, and when I was 24, I started studying metaphysics, and my teacher, Ann Manser, just helped so much. I learned so much from her. But one of the things that she taught was that anyone who cannot move with the changes that are happening now, and she predicted exactly what would be going on at this time. We're right in the middle of the changing of an age, moving from the Piscean to the Aquarian age. And if you've watched these lessons in order, which I recommend you do, they'll make more sense to you. At times, they may almost be necessary to see them in order. The first 3 lessons are about the changing of the age. And they're a little mini workshop that I taught. So we give up a certain sense of identity. The earth is giving up a sense of identity. And there's a stage in this giving up in which we feel lost, in which we probably may feel depressed. We may feel worried, afraid. This is so common. If people can't move with these changes, they literally will not be able to stay alive. At this time on the planet, and this is no blame and it's no criticism toward anyone, but people who cannot move into this new octave, this new energy that's coming in, people who cannot give up who they have been, can't stay alive. So, what are some of the other ways animals help us? They help us with this cohesiveness we're talking about. They help us connect to our primal vitality. Through our relationship with animals, we can experience a more vivid and energetic connection to ourselves. And another thing animals do for us, they help us connect with the Devic kingdom, because the devas are so connected to nature, and so are animals. So animals literally help us connect with angels, but there's another whole group of beings that animals help us connect to. They help us connect to what are called elementals. And part of that is because animals are so grounded, and elementals are all about the most primal earth energies. For instance, there are earth elementals, there are air elementals, fire elementals, and water elementals. And many, many people think that the elementals are folklore. Many people think that the elementals are fairy tales, but they aren't. I've seen elementals a number of times, and one time I saw a fairy, and part of the reason I believe that I really saw the fairy is that this fairy was entirely pink. My kitty wants to be in the lesson today. This is her all the time anyway. You have to get down. You have to, yes, I know. So, part of the reason I think that it was genuine that I saw this fairy is that she wasn't at all what I expected. She was entirely pink. She didn't really look like Tinkerbell. You know, Tinkerbell's so cute and has pretty hair and skin-colored complexion and all that. But this little fairy was flying along, and she was all pink. I've seen little elementals in the trunk of trees, and I've seen their faces, and the ones I saw, many elementals look different from each other. They all look different. There are different types according to the type of plant they are taking care of or helping, or what their little jobs, their specific jobs may be. They're groups, and they look different, the different groups. The elemental in a tree that I saw looked very much like, similar to anyway, is it a koala bear? Koala bear? I'm not saying that quite right. Forgive me. But you know what I mean. It was so cute. There it was. I saw it. You know, it's so very important to connect to nature, especially at this time, in terms of what's going on the planet. I used to live in St. Petersburg, Florida. Now I live in Atlanta, Georgia. And when I first moved to Atlanta, oh my God, it was so hard for me to not be around the Gulf of Mexico. And when I lived in St. Pete, I used to go in the evening, and I would walk on the beach. It was so wonderful. I used to go and sit on the beach and watch the sun go down, and the sun actually would talk to me. It was so great. And I would meditate and watch the sun go down. Well, one evening I was walking along the beach, and the waves were coming in, and you know the Gulf of Mexico is fairly gentle usually, not like some of the oceans that are much more turbulent, and I like that gentleness about the Gulf of Mexico. Well, along each wave crest there was foam, and in that foam I saw a line of little beings, and the best I can describe them is that they reminded me of the women who are part of a dance troupe, and they have their arms all connected, and they're like kicking up together. And these elementals were all connected to each other, coming in on the waves, and they were in the foam. So it's wonderful to experiment with looking for elementals and use your imagination, and you may think everything I've described was imagination, but use your imagination. Don't be afraid. They are in every flower, every plant, every tree, and they are caretakers. The elementals are giving energy and helping to balance the energy of all the kingdoms of life. It's said that creative people have a lot of elementals around them, and I have been told that, for instance, people who play the piano often have little elementals all around them and around their hands and around the keyboard. Another thing that animals do for us, and this is probably one of their very, very best gifts, they offer us unconditional love. I don't think as humans we are as capable, usually, we are not as capable as animals are of that unconditional love. And that is so healing for us. Another thing that animals do is they companion us. When we are so alone, we might be so alone without them. They are our companions. I feel also that animals help pull us into the power of the now. And, you know, animals, my belief is animals live in the now. And when we are in relationship with them, again, that's kind of contagious. Their quality of consciousness is somewhat contagious, and they help pull us into the beauty and the power of the now. And I think of this as feeling freedom. It certainly helps tremendously to ease our fears, our worries. You know, it's sort of like, well, right now you're okay, aren't you? Or even if you're having a hard time, you're all right on some level. And if you stay with that, life will be so much easier, and you won't need to be or have to be, or you won't be as afraid. So animals help us, and also humans help animals. Animals actually need relationships with humans at a certain point. When animals begin to reach the high point of the animal kingdom, when they are just about to graduate from being an animal to being a human, they go through a tremendous change, and it's called individuating. Up until this time, animals have been part of literally a group soul. And for instance, a group of trees may share a group soul. And even wild animals or less evolved animals are part of a group soul. And the group soul gives animals tremendous instincts. The group soul protects and guides whatever it is about. When animals reach a certain point of evolution and they're getting close to the end of their work as an animal, they break away from the group soul. And it's a very almost dangerous point for them, because they lose a lot of connection to their instincts, and they begin to have more intuition. And that's what we move into in the human kingdom. Our version of instincts for humans, this is intuition. And it's much more subtle than an instinct. It is quieter. And when an animal is losing its instincts and learning to have intuition, it's also learning to have an individual connection to its soul. Now, one thing I want you to know is that groups of animals who share a group soul actually have their own souls, but they're connected to the group as like all their souls are organized as a group. And as they individuate, they become more like humans, and they begin to break away from that group, and they begin to have direct individual connection to their souls. Humans need animals too, and we're going to go forward with that in our next lesson. So first, just simply make yourself comfortable. And some people prefer to lay on the floor or lay on a sofa or bed or something. For me, I fall asleep. So it's better for me to sit up. But find a position that's comfortable. Allow your feet to be flat on the floor. And just begin by finding yourself in your body. Perhaps this is the first time all day that you've taken time to really feel your body, what it feels like to live in your body. And allow yourself to simply feel what it feels like to breathe. Every incoming breath is bringing a soothing wave of relaxation through your entire body. And just feel your muscles letting down, lengthening. Every outgoing breath is carrying with it all of the tension, all of the stress of the day, all out and away from you. Allow yourself to receive that soothing wave of relaxation coming in with each breath. Allow yourself to receive the gift that all of the tension of the day is flowing out and away from you. And when you feel you have relaxed as much as you can, find yourself relaxing even more. From this deeply relaxed place, Allow yourself to remember or experience an animal you know. Choose an animal that is important or significant in your life. Perhaps there is more than one you want to think of. In this moment, be aware of how much this animal gives you, or how much this animal gave you. Just feel that. Is it possible that in these different special animal bodies you have been relating to the same soul, to the same being, coming to you in different forms? See if you can feel, is there a similarity? Is their energy similar? Thank this animal or animals for all it has given. And be aware of how much richer your life is because of them. And now very gradually begin to return. Just gradually allow yourself to return to your physical body, to the safe and grounded container of your body. And when you are back, let yourself move. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes. I have a helper evidently today. Thank you.